On today's show, we are talking all about Avengers Infinity War. Apparently, a screening took place in the UK. 30 minutes of the movie was seen. We're going to break down what people are saying about it. We're also going to talk about this Hawkeye meme. Like, is Hawkeye even in this movie? I don't know at this point, but we're going to break that down. We're going to do the dope list and go over a fan question. This is the Nerdy News Rundown, your daily dose for nerdy news. I'm broadcasting out of Uncanny in the King of Prussia Mall, Philadelphia. Let's get this show started. What is up, everybody? It's Josh. This is the Nerdy News Rundown. Welcome to the Friday show. I hope everybody's been having a good week. Now, this episode is going to be completely devoted to the 30 minutes of footage that was screened for people of Avengers Infinity War in the UK. And I should probably just mention too that as we head towards Infinity War, which is just a couple of weeks away, I'm going to heavily focus on Avengers Infinity War stuff on this show until we get to the movie, and then probably for a while afterwards as well. Now, as I said, 30 minutes of the movie was screened in the UK. There's not a lot of information out there, but I should say, especially because of the stuff we've been covering on the show recently and what the Russo brothers said to people online talking about not spoiling stuff, that if you don't want any spoilers whatsoever, no spoilers, you don't want to have any idea what's going on in the movie, you might want to check out. Now, having said that, I actually don't think these are heavy spoilers at all. I think it's like super light stuff. It just has to do with tone, some things that are going on in the film. So I think you're okay, but just in case, I want to give that spoiler warning. So if you want nothing spoiled at all and you want to go in completely without knowing anything, then maybe check off the video for now. So as far as I know, the only people talking about the screening online is a UK journalist organization called Digital Spy, and they put out a tweet talking about the 30 minutes of the film that they saw. And here's a couple of the things that they went into. They said that the movie is very ambitious, that it switches tones in between the different character sets. That's the music, the look of the thing, and the feel. They said it's very funny, and actually I saw a couple people tweeting about this online, talking about how it's funny right away, and we're going to get into all of that. And then they said there is, of course, still no Hawkeye. Now, we're going to get into the Hawkeye thing specifically, like in the next part of the video, but I want to go through each and everything that was said in that little tweet and sort of break it down and give you my thoughts about it. So let's start with the very ambitious idea. Now, obviously, this film was ambitious. It's 10 years in the making. It has all of these different superheroes into it, and it's going to be talking about Thanos. But I think what they mean when they say it's very ambitious is the narrative of the movie in general. We know this thing is going to vignette a lot and jump around a lot, talking about different threads, doing different things. Now, in a second, we're going to talk about tone, but I think overall, the reason the movie is so ambitious is instead of maybe focusing on one narrative and trying to sort of follow one character or even one set of characters through this story, I think this story is going to just be kind of all over the place and yet drive a single narrative overall. So that is pretty ambitious when you think about it, and it sort of brings in a hint of concern, right? A lot of the fans have been talking about, well, hey man, look, I don't even know how they're going to make this work. This seems crazy to me. Is this film going to be a big train wreck? Now, I personally don't think that. I think it's going to be fine. But the word ambitious is sort of an interesting way to phrase that. That can mean very good. It can also mean very bad. So it is possible that the overall film is hurt by how ambitious the narrative is for the movie. Those are just some of my thoughts about the ambitious nature of the movie and the narrative. I think it's going to jump around quite a bit, show us all sorts of different threads, and sort of tie into this overarching heist theme that Thanos is on. And I think we know that Thanos gets the most screen time in the movie. It's really like his story, and I think it's going to jump from his perspective to the perspective of the Avengers as they're dealing with what he is trying to accomplish. The next thing that was said about the 30 minutes is that it switches tone quite a bit. The movie switches tone depending on what group of characters it is focused on. And this might have been sort of an obvious thing, but I think it's very important to sort of focus on and clarify what that means exactly. With the news we covered yesterday about James Gunn coming in and writing dialogue for the Guardians of the Galaxy, I would venture to say that what was going on on with the Guardians and Thor is going to have its own tone, its own music, its own feel. It might even feel like kind of a separate movie when you're hanging out with those characters. I also think that what's going on with Vision and Scarlet Witch is going to be like a big emotional thread, and that might be shot in a certain way that makes it seem like a love story. It might be tonally like a love story. The music might kind of give you that love story kind of vibe. And so I think to add to the ambitious qualities of just jumping around to all these different characters, the fact that they are setting up different tones, not only like musically, but visually for each of these different groupings is really, really cool. I mean, I think that's interesting, and I hope that it doesn't compete with itself too much and you can still get a flow for the overall narrative. Now let's talk about the humor a little bit. Obviously, Marvel movies are funny. They're lighthearted, and especially as of late, they've teetered into the comedy realm. I would say Guardians 2 is almost a straight comedy, and Thor Ragnarok is completely hilarious with rapid fire jokes all over it. And so I think that a lot of people had this idea that maybe because it's Thanos, because it's the Thanos quest, killing of all this life in the universe, and that there will be a lot of tragedy in the film, that it wasn't going to have that Marvel humor that we're all used to. Obviously, the people that have seen this screening are putting that to bed. They said the movie even starts out on a very, very funny note, and with the Guardians and Star-Lord and Tony Stark and Peter Parker and all of these characters in the film, of course there's going to be a lot of humor. Now, I will say that I do get a little bit concerned that the tone could be weakened by comedy relief. This is something that I did not like in The Last Jedi, and actually I didn't like that in Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I felt like Thor Ragnarok utilized it a little bit better, but in general, Marvel movies do have this problem where they tend to sort of lean on silly humor a little bit too much like winking to the camera and things like that. The hope is that it's not too funny, but I do appreciate the Marvel humor, so I'm hoping that it's just the right amount and that it doesn't detract from the very serious stakes that Thanos and his quest are going to present for our heroes. Now, the last thing that people said about the screening is that there was still no sign of Hawkeye in the movie. So with the very first 30 minutes of the film, there's still no Hawkeye whatsoever, and that's our next topic. So I'm going to kind of dive deep on what people have been saying about Hawkeye in the movie. What does this probably mean? What's his role going to be? And we're going to get into that. But as far as from the 30 minutes itself, it is important to note that there was no Hawkeye in the movie. Man, is he even in this film? Seriously, what's going on? But that is sort of my breakdown of what people are saying about the first 30 minutes of Infinity War. They're being very vague, not really giving us a lot, which is good. I want to go in and I want to be surprised, but I assume more and more like information like this is going to kind of just come out in the next couple of weeks, so I'll be covering it as it does. But I want to know your thoughts about all of this. What do you think about this? Are you concerned about the humor? Are you concerned about how ambitious the narrative's going to be with kind of jumping around a lot? And what do you think about the different tones being used for the different groups of characters? You think that's going to be effective, or is it going to be a little bit too jarring? Whatever your thoughts are about it, I want to know in the comments section below. All right, so let's talk some Hawkeye, man. At this point, this whole thing has become a meme. People are starting to say they don't even think Hawkeye is in the movie at all. This is something we've sort of covered a little bit. He's not been in any of the promotional material. And as I just said in our first story, he's not even in the first half hour of the film. The Russo brothers have been talking about this. Right now, everybody's on their press tour, and so they're fielding a lot of questions. Naturally, the question comes up about Hawkeye. Is he in the movie? What is he doing in the movie? And all of that. So basically, the Russos gave an answer, which is pretty predictable, something you would expect. They said it'll all be explained when you watch the movie, but he is indeed in the film. He said in interviews past that everything he does in the movie is a big spoiler. That's sort of weird to me. I'm kind of curious about what that could all mean. Now, for a lot of these characters in the MCU, after Civil War, they have to sort of deal with things on their own. Remember, Hawkeye was retired, and then he comes out of retirement because Cap needed help, and he needed to sort of rescue Wanda and be involved in that whole debacle, right? And so I think, coupling that with, being thrown in jail, really mistreated, once he gets out of there, I don't think he's running around with the Secret Avengers. That would have been in the Prelude comic. That would have been in promotional material. He's not running around with the Secret Avengers. So he probably either goes back into retirement or he starts doing his own thing, going on sort of his own mission. I'd actually love for Hawkeye to be tied to some kind of a secret plot that is going on with S.H.I.E.L.D. or with Nick Fury or Captain Marvel, some kind of other thing going on where maybe Hawkeye is aware of Thanos and the threat and he's doing something behind the scenes to try to help the heroes out. That would be really cool, although I really do hope that he does end up in Wakanda at the end of the film with all of the Avengers. Now, we know either way, Ant-Man and the Wasp and Hawkeye are likely to play a much bigger role in Avengers 4. This comes from all sorts of interviews where people behind the scenes are saying there are going to be Avengers that do not have a lot of screen time in 3 that get a lot of screen time in 4, and vice versa. And so I think that might be what's going on. Hawkeye might get a little bit of play in this movie, maybe show up in the second or third act, and then he'll play a major role in Avengers 4. It's possible he's actually on a mission with Ant-Man. That would be kind of cool, but that's just like a kind of a hilarious story at this point. People cannot stop talking about Hawkeye. So I wanted to kind of touch it on that briefly and ask all of you guys, like, what do you think's going on with Hawkeye? Where is he at in this movie? Is he a Skrull or something? What's going on with Hawkeye? I mean, do you think he's even in the film? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. All right, everybody, it's time for the dope list. This is just rapid fire dopeness from all kinds of cool stories that you might have missed from yesterday. Number 1 on the dope list has to do with the Han Solo movie. We found out that the first screening for that film is actually going to be at Cannes Film Festival. This would be on May 15th, which is 10 days before its May 25th release. This is pretty cool, probably a really awesome thing for all the people going to Cannes. I think that's a good way to debut the film. Either way, it's kind of cool. We'll be seeing first reactions around May 15th from Cannes Film Festival when it comes to the Han Solo movie. I'm super excited for this film. My excitement is growing every day, so it's kind of cool that they threw this craziness at us and now Han Solo is going to be at Cannes. I wonder if it'll like win an award or something. Next thing on the dope list has to do with a trailer for Terry Gilliam's Don Quixote film. Now, I know Don Quixote, Terry Gilliam, why is that on the Nerdy News Rundown? Well, basically, I just have a close connection to this movie. If you've ever seen the documentary Lost in La Mancha, which is a documentary about Terry Gilliam trying to make this film, he's talking about the curse of the Don Quixote movie, how that movie could never be made, and that documentary is amazing. I watched it when I was in film school, and so it's crazy that this movie finally has a trailer. Apparently, it's actually going to come out. Apparently, Terry broke the curse. I'm excited for him. Also, Adam Driver's in the movie, and just from what I see in the trailer, it looks like he knocks it out of the park once again, so wanted to sort of drop a little tidbit about the coming Don Quixote movie. The last bit of news on the dope list has to do with Y: The Last Man. This is an incredible comic book series written by Brian K. Vaughan. It's dealing with this alternate future in which everything on the planet with the Y chromosome disappears except one guy and one male monkey. It's a really cool story. This book was in development to be a movie for years and was actually stuck in what they call production hell. Now it's apparently out of there and being developed as a television series, and they literally just ordered a pilot for it. This is super cool news. We're actually going to get Y: The Last Man. I love that comic book series. You should go check it out if you have not, but it's good news that we're finally getting this thing. So that's it on the dope list. Just a couple of dope things you might have missed from yesterday. Let me know your thoughts about all of them in the comment section below. All right, let's finish off the show with a fan question. This question comes from A.R. Watkins. He asked me, what director or directing duo from the MCU would I want to interview on this show? AR listed off a couple of the directors, including Taika Waititi, Ryan Coogler, the Russo brothers, Joss Whedon. And I just want to say my cheat answer to this whole thing is Joss Whedon, but it wouldn't be to talk to him about the MCU. I want to know about that Justice League debacle. But just to kind of keep it back into the MCU and be fair to your question, I'd probably say Taika Waititi. I think he'd just be a really fun interview, and I would consider it sort of a challenge to try to get a good interview out of this guy because he's so like outlandish and off the wall that you don't really know what to expect. I think Ryan Coogler would be a great interview as well. He seems more mellowed out, would probably give some really insightful, deep answers. That would be really cool. I've seen a ton of interviews with the Russo brothers. They seem pretty standard. They do a great job. They know how to hold things close to the vest. You're probably not going to get a lot out of them. So I'd probably have to say among all of those, probably Taika, just because he's such a fun guy, man. The energy would be great. And even if the interview went completely off the rails, which it probably would, it would still be entertaining. People would probably still like it. It would get a lot of views. So that's my answer to that question. A.R. Watkins, thank you so much for the question. Guys, if you have a question you want me to cover on a future show, drop it in the comment section down below. I'll cover it, man. I want to talk about what you guys want to talk about. So hit me up in the comment section below. As I always say, I hope you are having an awesome and nerdy day, and I will see you in the next video. Guys, it's happening again. I'm in this little box. I'm in this box. They got me in a box here, and you got to click those links. Otherwise, I can't get out of this box. It's a tragedy, but you could be a hero and click a link. Did you click one?